Good evening and welcome to another edition of ROSS Racing, brought to you by Rockingham Dragway. I'm Matt Harrelson, joined of course by Russell Parker, and tonight we have all of the controversy from the Truck Series to talk about, including a strip victory for Ross Chastain and Johnny Sauter being parked after an on-track confrontation. But before we get to that, let's talk about the Xfinity Series race at Iowa Speedway. Christopher Bell put on a clinic in the Hawkeye State, leading 186 laps, with losing the lead just once and getting top 10 finishes in both Stage 1 and Stage 2. So Russell, Bell is now at 4 wins this season. How many more can he get?
I think he's probably going to win the rest of them.
It's not out of the question.
He's been doing very well, of course. 4 wins, numerous top 10 finishes this season. The most interesting fact I found about this, though, is that he won on Mother's Day and now he won on Father's Day. So he's getting all the parents' love right now. I'm waiting to see when the Grandparents' Day comes up. Maybe we'll win them. But, Christopher Bell is just outstanding in the Xfinity Series, just constantly performing well, always up there running well. I know he's ready to jump up to the next level.
Yeah.
I think it was smart by Joe Gibbs to keep him on that level of the Xfinity Series for now before they move him up into a future ride, whether that be with Valiant Family Racing or if they kick out a driver from JGR. He's got a bright future ahead of him. And for the 2019 season Xfinity Series, I think that he's just going to continue. I think he might get at least 4 more wins. And we haven't reached playoff time. We're kind of in that halfway point now of the season. So I think that he can at least get 4 more heading into the playoffs. And maybe he'll snag 2 more there. So he's probably looking at very close to a 10-win season for him.
Wow. Now, how is that unprecedented? Do we see that very often at this level?
I think there's some drivers that you can see that. I can't recall anyone who's done that. Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott may have been the ones that have done that.
That's a big number.
But Christopher Bell, I think he had 8 wins last season overall. So he just came short of winning the championship. That's what it has to close out on if he can get that title this year, because he's only second in points, believe it or not. He's not actually leading it despite the 4 wins. But he's still, as long as he continues to stay up there, continues to run smoothly, and gets a great finish at Homestead, because I'm sure he'll be in that championship 4 then. As long as he does that, he's going to be fine.
Yeah, and I'm sure at this point in his still young career, he's looking for championships at this point. So, but prior to the start of the season, NASCAR announced that should the winning team of a race fail post-race inspection, their win would be stripped and handed to second place. And for the first time, we've seen this happen, and it was Ross Chastain who fell victim to the rule, and Brett Moffitt was declared the winner. The reason for the failed inspection was that the truck was too low in the front. Now, we've got an audio clip of Gander Outdoor Truck Series Managing Director Brad Moran, who was asked about the infraction. Here it is. So, Russell, do you agree with this call by NASCAR?
I think it's a fair
assessment.
Fair assessment. They came out and said that, hey, we're going to suspend you for 1 race, but still be playoff eligible. I think that's fair, and I think even if this happened in the playoffs, I think you should still just give 1 race suspension. Do not disqualify them from the playoffs. If they did it at Homestead, then I guess take the whole championship away if you win a championship. But
I think that's tough.
If you cheat, I guess, you gotta you get caught, you gotta suffer the consequences. But I know that this is gonna be really hard for them, considering that this was Chastain's what would have been his first victory of the season, to really get him going in the Truck Series. I think that he'll bounce back from this, though. I don't know if I know he's got suspension for his 1 race at Gateway, but moving forward, there's still plenty of tracks that he has a good opportunity to win at. I think that he'll bounce back easily, but yeah, I think this is fine. NASCAR, they have some inconsistencies in their rules before, but I do agree that they kept this rule from the beginning of the season, and they stuck with it through this point, even when it's a part of the season where it's been pretty big for them. Now, I think that some people were kind of upset about this, saying that there's no reason to have a post-race inspection if you have a pre-race inspection. But there's a difference there, and during the race, you can change the way your truck runs or your car runs throughout the race, and you can do some things to it to have your car ride a little bit lower, and that's just what happened. And you can't, I mean, there's a solid evidence that if your truck's too low, then I mean that's just flat out it. And there's no okay, maybe such and such happened here, or it's not like that. There's no kind of guessing game here on why it is. It simply is. So it's hard to argue against that from Chastain's position.
And NASCAR made their intentions clear from the beginning. If this happens, that you got to suffer the consequences, as you mentioned. Now, you also used the word cheating. Tell me what being too low in the front, what kind of advantage does that give you?
All right, I don't really want to call it cheating if they didn't actually mean it, but if that's what they did, I mean that's what they did. But but yeah, if your car, the lower your ride is, the more downforce you can get on it, and you can get more speed out of it. He led a ton of laps that day, and he was almost kind of untouchable for a little while. So it definitely gave him an advantage. You can kind of clearly see that throughout the race, and I feel like that the lower it is, the more downforce you got, the faster you go. And there's a rule to it. If you don't stick with it, you're going to get caught with it.
Yeah. Well, at least they stuck with it. So, but the jaw-dropping post-race development was preceded by a dramatic on-track clash. Austin Hill took exception to contact from Johnny Sauter and responded with a push to Sauter. I'm mispronouncing his name, but I got it now. Which sent his number 13 into the wall. Sauter did not pit. Instead, as Hill wheeled his number 16 back around the track, Sauter retaliated, using his truck to spin out Hill. Now, the incident ended Sauter's day, and Hill recovered to claim 13th. NASCAR also determined that Sauter will be suspended for one race, which will be this upcoming weekend at Gateway Motorsport Park. However, Sauter will still be playoff eligible. So, Russell, what do you make of the stipulations on the former Truck Series champion's actions?
Yeah, so actually, I got some information wrong earlier about Chastain. He is not suspended for the next race. He's just got his win taken away. But yeah, Sauter is definitely getting suspended for this coming up race at Gateway. And yeah, I completely agree with this rule by NASCAR, or this determination they came up with. If you're out there violently using your truck or your car to spin someone out, do damage to them, I get that Austin Hill did some things to Sauter that was uncalled for. But you handle that stuff off the track, not using your vehicles to talk with your fist. Use your fist. I think fists are okay for this point. Yeah. Or use your mouth. Not use your truck. You're not only are you costing your guys, I know you don't care at the time, but you are costing that team money. You're also costing your own team money. You still got a truck to race with. Go out there and do what you got to do. Forget about that until after the race. Talk then. Text it or whatever you got to do to get it out, but don't do it in the heat of that moment. And being a truck champion, I feel like he should have known better than this. Yeah. But he suffered the consequences, and I know this will hurt him for the next weekend ahead because he's not going to be able to get any playoff points, not going to be able to get any points whatsoever, or a win to lock himself into the playoffs and build up those playoff points. So that hurts. A 1 week suspension does hurt, but what's good is that he does continue to be a playoff eligible driver. So on that, at least he's still good for that. Do
you agree with that part of it, that he should still be playoff eligible?
Yeah, kind of going back to the point I was saying earlier because I was getting my information mixed up. But yeah, I still believe that, if you get into a situation like this, I think a 1 week suspension is good enough for this type of situation because, tempers get crazy.
Sure.
And I think that, it's kind of understandable, but you still got to have a consequence to it at the very least. If he continues to do it, you might see multiple race suspensions, and it just continues to hurt him moving forward. And even if it does happen in playoffs, then maybe he does get. If you miss a week of the playoffs, you really are screwed. So you might as well not worry about taking them out. So yeah, I think this is fair. A one race suspension is fair for this.
Well, he definitely shot himself in the foot, so to speak. But you think about it from this standpoint. If you did this outside of the racetrack, you get the cops called on you, don't you?
Yeah, outside the racetrack, sure. But if you're in the infield, you kind of have the boys have at it from there, as long as you don't get too violent, not too bloody. So I think you're fine on this situation.
Yeah. And to a point, NASCAR almost welcomes that sort of thing. Maybe not to this point, but a little bit of back and forth. They like that. So the Xfinity Series will be taking the week off, and the Truck Series will be headed to Gateway. Real quick, before we move to the Cup Series, who do you think will be going to victory lane there?
I mean, I definitely like Brett Moffitt's chances on this one because he's been hot. I know he just got the win off of Iowa by being second place and with a situation, which he found that out at a bar, I believe. He was sitting at a bar drowning his sorrows out, and he found out he won, so I guess he's already celebrating afterwards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say Brett Moffitt. I think that he could potentially win this race. This track has been very good lately. Past few seasons, it's getting a lot more racy. You're seeing a lot more passes. And this track used to be on the Cup Series schedule, I believe. So I think it's pretty cool to see Truck Series at least still going out there. It's a really unique track because the turns are completely different from opposite ends. It's a really flat track as well. So I think Brett Moffitt may have this one.
All right. Well, let's talk about drivers who are in the groove. Who you got this week?
I got one driver on this one across the Xfinity and Truck Series. That's Harrison Burton. Both these races were back to back on the same day because Truck Series got rained out on Saturday, so they raced them both on Sunday. Burton went. He started 10th in the Truck Series, finished third. Started 10th in the Xfinity Series and finished fourth. So to go from 10th to top 5 finish on a double header day like that, that's impressive. So he had to take a sole win here for in the groove this week.
All right, that sounds good. Well, after a Father's Day break, the Cup Series will be back in action this weekend for their first road course race of the season. The Vineyards of Sonoma Raceway play host to 40 drivers looking to claim the trophy. But this year, Sonoma will feel like a brand new track with the return of the carousel, making this a 12-turn course. The last time the carousel was used was all the way back in 1998. So, Russell, what makes this change different than in the past?
Well, it used to, coming off, I think it's turn 4. It's I'm not. For one, it's not the track will no longer look like a gas tank. It kind of looks like that now. It kind of looks like you got like a fork going on here. So basically, what the carousel does is instead of going straight on one of the straightaways, you're going to have a turn really hard to the right, and it's kind of downhill slope. Then you have to when you get to the apex of that turn, you're going to go back uphill, and then you're going to hit a little hairpin turn, and you're going to go back downhill again. So you got more elevation going on this track, and Sonoma has been very well known for elevation. So to add more to it, it's going to make those machines of those cars, they're going to be hard at work all day long, and you're going to add more to it. You might see more gear shifts break, some more motors blow out, and drivers getting more frustrated with each other. So I think you're going to see a lot of action come out of the carousel. I've never seen a race for the carousel because, I was born in 96, so only 2 years in my lifetime it's ever been used. So I'm excited to see how this race goes. Sonoma's always been a fascinating track. To add more to that, it's going to make it even more exciting, more interesting to watch as we get here to this Sunday.
Wow, you just made me feel really old with that 1996 reference. While a historic turn returns, a commentary announcer will be leaving the booth after this weekend, with Fox Sports wrapping up their first half coverage of the Cup and Xfinity season at Sonoma. NASCAR Hall of Famer Darrell Waltrip will be calling his final race this Sunday as he'll be retiring. So we've talked about it before when Waltrip announced it, but now it's here. Russell, there's a few questions to ask. What really makes this such a big deal to the sport of NASCAR?
Darrell Waltrip's been in the booth ever since Fox Sports began their coverage of NASCAR, and I gotta say that they've probably got one of the best coverages ever of all the broadcasters. So, have Darrell Waltrip. He made a very famous line, "Boogity, boogity, boogie, let's go racing, boys." Yep. And I was actually watching a little interview the other day of how he came up with that. He was sitting in a motorhome with one of his buddies, and he said something along the similar lines to it. He just kind of picked it up, continued it on there, and a lot of fans, they love it. There's some out there who hate it. Some are like, I don't understand why he says that every single week. But everybody gets the attention, and when Darrell Waltrip's talking, you know what's coming. He's always been known for it, and Waltrip is a champion of the sport. He knows a lot he's one of the older guys too, so you know him from the old days. A lot of older fans will love him for that. I think Waltrip is a tremendous broadcast announcer, and he's kind of a staple to that as well. And I think he's kind of one of those that as far as color commentary goes, I think he's probably one of the ones that future broadcasters probably aspire to be like.
All right. Yes, of course, as you mentioned, young and old NASCAR fans know Waltrip. So Waltrip was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame, but it isn't just about drivers. We've seen the legendary Ken Squire get in as a broadcaster. Is Waltrip worthy of being a two-timer?
I think so. I would like to see that. I think he might be one of the first ones to actually have a two-time Hall of Fame title, I guess. He got it back in 2012, I don't want to say. So I think he could be one of the first ones to do that. I can't recall if anyone else has done it. So I think it's a good possibility to see it. So certainly so.
All right. And last question. I know we've discussed this a little bit in the past, but who do you think will take the broadcaster position for the 2020 season?
I kind of like to see a crew chief come into this role, whether they bring back Larry McReynolds. He's been kind of hanging out on one of the other shows that Fox does for NASCAR. Maybe he can come in, get away from the racing analyst position, and maybe get back into the crew chief point of view in the booth. I would like to see that. Everybody loves Larry, so I would like to see him. Maybe even Chad Canals right now is who is a former crew chief for Jimmy Johnson, currently for William Byron. So I think I believe maybe if he ever wants to retire, maybe he can come in. I know this is a year, so they got less than a year to figure out who they want to put in the booth. So that's gonna be really challenging to get someone like that in. So maybe I'm hoping for a crew chief, because right now we've got a race car driver, which is Jeff Gordon, and we've got I'm sorry, I cannot remember his name right now. Mike Joy right now is kind of the play-by-play. So now we need a crew chief point of view in there.
I agree with you 100%. When a spot like this opens up, people automatically think, put another driver in there. But I agree, you need a different perspective when it comes to that. But road courses are unusual for NASCAR in the Cup Series, so they're typically deemed as wild card races, as they can produce different and unique winners more often than other tracks. Now, there's a lot of drivers who are on the outside of the playoff bubble that could win this race and gain a spot in the postseason. Which of those drivers, Russell, do you think will have the best chance of winning?
Jimmy Johnson's been pretty good here in the past. I'm not going to say that he has the best chance of winning this race, but he's been pretty good, pretty solid here. But I like Alex Bowman. I think that he's been on the bubble for quite some time. I feel like that road course would be perfect for him. He's done very well at Watkins Glen in the past, and as well as Sonoma. So he has the left and right down pat, I think. I believe that he might be the one. As far as anyone else, maybe Daniel Hemrick. He's been kind of showing a lot of solid performance lately as well. And driving that, I believe he drives the number 8 car. I think that he can potentially get him a win. I don't know about a win, but at least put him in a good position to win. Ryan Blaney is another one comes to mind, although he's not on the bubble, but he's certainly a road course driver. So I feel like we're going to see a good mixture of different drivers running up front for this race. You might still see the Kyle Busch and the Joey Logano's and the Martin Truex Jr.'s, but you're not
usual suspects.
Yeah, but I feel like you're going to see a good mixture of different drivers this weekend, especially with those who are on the bubble who feel like this is their time to win.
All right. So let's move towards the Rock Block, of course, brought to you by the Rockingham Dragway. And there's always something going on at the drag strip. This weekend, no different. Got a lot going on, and this weekend is set aside for the kiddos. We've got the Junior Dragster Summer Sizzler taking place today through Sunday, so the entire weekend. Now, if you're heading out today, it is free entry for the warm-up race. If you win, 500 smackaroos to you and 200 to the runner-up. On Saturday, we've got the Big Bucks race, $3,500 to the winner of that one, $1,000 to the runner-up. That one, however, is going to cost you $100 to get in, but if you win, you're making back your money plus some. Now, all three age brackets, it breaks down 6 to 9-year-olds, 10 to 13, and 14 to 18 will run separate until we're down to just one driver in each bracket. And then on Sunday, that is Win a Wally race. 6 to 9-year-olds, $1,000 win, and an NHRA Wally. Same thing for 10 to 13, 14 to 18 as well. If you want to get in on this one, it'll cost you $60. Now, Friday night is the parents' race. So if you're a parent, head on out there tonight, and they'll let you race. Tomorrow night is the golf cart race, which I'm really looking forward to that. I think that'll be cool. Plus, they got a cookout tomorrow night. It's free to everybody. If you want to head out there, it's $35 for the whole weekend. Tickets, if you just want to do Saturday and Sunday, is $25. Or if you just want to head out on Sunday, that'll only cost you $15. Gates will open tomorrow and Sunday at 8 a.m. So that is the Rock Block.
Somebody's going to be a cool kid this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I really want to check out that golf cart race.
Have you ever raced them on the golf course before?
Yeah, I have. But
I won't say which ones. I've done it.
No, I don't want to say which one. But I would imagine these are souped up a little bit, right?
Yeah, I believe they would be.
And we see around here what they do with lawnmowers. Very interesting to see what you can do with a golf cart. So, all right, before we end this edition of Ross Racing, Who you got this weekend?
I feel like a driver's going to get their second win this season, and that is Chase Elliott. He's got a really nice paint scheme coming up for this race as well. I just feel like it's a fast one for him. And he's done so well in this track before. He won at Watkins Glen last year. I believe he had a top 10 finish at Sonoma last year as well. Even with the added carousel, I think he's going to be one to figure it out probably faster than anyone else, and maybe a few others. But I feel like as far as drivers who really want to win, he put on a clinic in Watkins Glen, and I think he can do it here as well.
Can you tell us what the paint scheme is?
I believe it's yellow and blue. I'm not quite sure. I know it's yellow, but I think it's like a blue or dark blue. It looks really slick.
All right, sounds good. Well, sounds like he might be the driver in the groove for next week.
Yeah.
So we'll let you know. Stick right here for another edition of Ross Racing. Of course, this weekend, every week, brought to you by the Rockingham Dragway and RockinghamDragway.com. That is Russell Parker. I'm Matt Harrelson. We'll see you right back here next week on the track for another edition of Ross Racing.